Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to another edition of Ashford Garley Live right here on Bridge Radio Africa. We're broadcasting to you live from Facebook and YouTube. My name is Volcano Shelton. I'm the co-host of the program. Again, Ashford is not with us in studios, but nevertheless, we're here together to have a great time. We're going to have a great program tonight. If you recalled, last week I told you that we'll be having the former commissioner of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Liberia, Ms. Massa Washington, will be discussing the recommendations put forth by the TRC to the government of former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, if she had acted on, it would have done justice for Liberia and done a whole lot for the country. Also, we're hoping that President George Weah, who is now in power, will also pay attention to those recommendations. Hopefully, it helps to change the country, in some, very wonderful ways, things that we really thought would happen for our country. But yet, 300 plus thousand people died since 1978, 79, put it that way, 79 up to 2003. And even lately, we've seen some mysterious death in the country, and nothing seems to be going well to reconcile the nation and to bring healing to those victims and the people who lost their relatives and loved ones. So it's a very serious topic here tonight. But just before we go to our studio guests, we want to quickly welcome all of you, our viewers and listeners, wherever you are around the world. I will hope that you will share the page, share the video, invite a friend, like Ashford always says. Grab your popcorn. I got something to drink. I have some orange juice here, just to keep my throat, kind of wet, because the discussion going to be very, very serious here tonight. I want to welcome Alvin Perry, Amos Weefor. He's watching from Northeast Philadelphia. From Boston, we have Emmanuel Jackson, and I see Isaac Toll Jr., Clarence Stiller. We want to welcome all of you guys. We hope you can share the word, invite a friend. We quickly want to recognize the relationship and support of our sister stations in Liberia, Top FM 105.3 in Zwedru, Grand Juda County. We want to also recognize the effort of Joy FM 101.5 and Live FM 104.1, all in Liberia, kind of carrying our broadcast. So we say thank you so much for all you do out there. We hope Liberia is doing well. I hope you guys are paying attention to the new development with Ebola and also the current situation regarding the COVID. People need to continue to wear the masks. People need to continue to be responsible, social distance, and do, the best you can to just observe your surroundings. Be careful how you handshake. You remember back in the Ebola, we were not shaking hands, we were rubbing elbows. I think this is it, no hugging and all those things. You got to pay attention. Life is beautiful. So don't take chances, and especially in Liberia, people tend to take chances. The Liberian man never believes anything until, it hits him right in the head. Darling Wawood, welcome. Crew boy Nanti Na, welcome to the show tonight. So this is Ashford Garley Live here on Bridge Radio Africa. We come your way on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 1 a.m. GMT. So our listeners and viewers out there in Australia, we have a good following in Australia, in Asia, in Europe, and in Africa, and anywhere else. We invite you tonight. These discussions are going to be very, very heated. Again, as I said, we will be discussing some of the recommendations. In fact, we're going to be looking at 7 to 8 recommendations if time permit, because we also got to have you, the callers, call in to speak with the commissioner. So repatriation rather reparation, not repatriation, rather reparation or expiation, is something that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission put forth to the government of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Hopefully, had she started the process, Liberia would have gone far. uh, Regarding people who are still in government, who perpetrated the war, who killed people innocently, wouldn't be, you know, uh, moving around the country scot free and bragging about war crime would never come to Liberia. Unfortunately, Ellen did not do justice, and I believe because she was also a major player. According to Commissioner Massa Washington, when she was here, she said during the investigation, Ellen's name kept coming up from 1978 all the way, or 1979 all the way to 2003. Her name kept coming up. So she was a major player. Was it the reason why she didn't take serious those recommendations, to help change the country's trajectory? We can answer for her. Um, but yeah, we have a president who promised that he was going to do well by the people. He was going to ensure that those people who perpetrated war crimes will be brought to book. Today, we are now 3 years in President Weah's government. We don't seem to hear anything about the Economic and War Crime Court. We also don't hear anything about the reparation process, to give back to these people who continue to, mourn the loss of the loved ones, especially those who innocently died. Nothing seems to be done. So let's bring in our studio guest tonight. The Honorable former Commissioner of the TRC, Massa Washington. You're way down. You got to come up, tilt your camera toward you. There you go. Good evening, madam. Welcome. It's good to have you back. It took a lot to convince you to come back here, but the Liberian people have been asking a whole lot. People kept asking, where is Massa Washington? Is she ever going to come back to discuss these things? Could you probably lower your monitor? Because we had that same problem the last time. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good. Oh, absolutely. There we go. So, Massa, the last time you were here, we talked about the topic was around memorializing the folks, and you went into history, discussing, we're still having the feedback. We're still having the feedback.
Are you still having the feedback now?
All right, let's see. All right. So, yeah, we're still having the feedback.
It's my dog walking. You can pata, 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 right? Is it?
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
So, as I was saying, no, we're still getting the feedback, Massa. You just got to turn your monitor down. Totally.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you still? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm still hearing it somewhere. Okay, let's give it a shot and see. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good.
Can you
So
hear
as I
me?
was saying, you were here the last time, and we were talking about the memorializing of the folks who died over the years. Hopefully, that will bring some kind of closure to the process. And you went on to talk about all the things that could have been done had the government of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and now President Weah had they really put effort in honoring the recommendations. But because of the time factor, you say you will come back to discuss the recommendations with the Liberian people. So we brought you in tonight to do that. But just before we go to that, I just wanted to look at this quickly on the memorials, since we covered that, but we didn't have the opportunity to see this because the document was not before me. Thanks for sending the document. I appreciate it. The TRC did recommend that in order to memorialize the dead and out of respect for survivors or for the survivors of the Liberian civil conflict, that there be established a national holiday for that purpose to be observed once every year, preferably that National Unification Day be renamed National Unification and Memorial Day, and that memorial sites be built in the capital cities of each county to include every site of massacres where the remains of our people en masse have been buried from 1979 to 2003. The TRC then recommended that befitting programs be held on that day and that the government of Liberia assist the people to conduct proper cleansing ceremonies according to their customs and traditions to cleanse the land and lay the spirits, I repeat, lay the spirits of the dead ones to rest. That's important.
Absolutely.
Those people are still lingering because we have not brought closure to the issue. That there be assistance to rebuild the shrines and holy places and rehabilitate desecrated traditional custom, culture, rather, and religious institutions. But this piece here, lay the spirits of the dead ones to rest. Massa.
Good evening, Fokano. Of course, it's a pleasure being on your program as usual. Good evening to all of our friends in Radio Land, fellow Liberians, and it's good to have you guys, on this show. Yeah, absolutely. The TRC actually made about 47 recommendations, and those recommendations are cross-cutting across, the various topics and aspect of the Liberian society. Come back to specifically the recommendation on reparation. Now, reparation is a broad term. So what we did was, under reparation, we have what we call sub-recommendations. So reparation is the bigger recommendation. Under reparation, and under reparation, we have all sort of different kinds of recommendations that we have recommended that, the government implement. And memorializing the dead is one of those recommendations under, it's a form of reparation. And we know that the Liberian society is a cultural one. We have several ethnic groups, and all of our ethnic groups have their own unique culture, practices, and customs. So the TRC recognizes that, and we want to be respectful of our culture and our traditions. And we know that in some of the different culture and traditions of Liberia, they memorialize their dead in so many different ways. So we want to pay respect to traditional means of memorializing the dead. That is why the TRC said, one, so that it covers across the board nationally, there should be a national memorial in each capital city of all of the 19 counties. And then
15 counties, you meant.
Sorry, 15 counties. And then also at memorial, at massacre sites, because during our work, we discovered several massacre sites. Massacres took place all over the country. And some of them, stood out for the ghastly nature of what happened. But all over Liberia, every single county was affected. Not a single county that we went that did not have numerous massacre sites. And so we are saying that to cover, the national or space, that memorial sites be at least erected in each capital city of each county, then at those different memorial sites that we discover. But however, if there later on, as the process starts, and if there are other massacre sites that the TRC didn't have the time to see, or that we didn't discover for whatever reason, the local people know what happened in the communities, so the local people can help this process. And it's very important because we know that we are a nation steeped in tradition and cultural practices. And just because some of us are literate, meaning that we have formal education, we can read and write, doesn't mean that we do not respect and we do not recognize our culture, customs, tradition, and practices. So we know our people as a way of life. They had their own form of behavior, and they had their own form of governance before even the white man got there and before the settlers got there. So we want to recognize those traditional means of cleansing the land. We know in some society, um, in some communities, people do different forms of cleansing. And when the people die, they have different rituals that they perform to send that person off into the great beyond respectfully and peaceably. We want to recognize that. So we are saying that the government should work with the local communities in the 15 counties of Liberia to help them, provide them with whatever they need, whether it's manpower or finances or materials, to work with these local communities and respect them and help them memorialize the dead properly, so that we are all Africans, so that they
Spirit can move on.
can move on. Because we know that we always say that when people die certain kinds of way, and they have not been respected, and they have not, some of those people just disappeared. Some of them, their bones were not even buried. You have bones of Liberians lying all over the place. You have people in shadowy graves, watery graves, and all of that. So we need those kinds of national or recognition of and respect, so that our people, so that the spirit can go in peace. And then it also helps to cleanse the land, and it also helps to bring reconciliation and peace to us as a people. So I mean, imagine if these kinds of recommendations I would consider soft recommendations. They're soft because they're not really political. So these are recommendations that the government, Ellie and the rest of them, could have implemented. But instead of that, they focus only on the recommendation that called for the establishment of a war crimes code, and also the sanction list that had Ellie name on it. So what they did, basically, they hijacked the entire 47 blockbuster recommendations, or let's say 45 blockbuster recommendations that could have ushered the peace, that could have enhanced the peace. They ignore it and just focus on the war crimes code, the persecutory recommendations, and also the sanction list recommendations. They politicize the whole thing. Not to say, it's wrong to say you want justice for what has happened. All of the recommendations, I think, are good recommendations, but they focus on those two recommendations. They deceive the Liberian people. They put the Liberian people under the impression that, oh, if we bring war crimes code, war will start again. And in so doing, they didn't give the people justice. And now we have perpetrators who are actually running the country. They are the leaders. They have the economic power because they pay themselves from the national budget. And it's so sad because the very people who were victimized are the very people who are now taxpayers, who are actually paying the perpetrators and the victimizers. They're paying their salaries, they're paying their allowances, they're paying for the cars that they drive. And these people have absolutely zero remorse. They have not expressed any remorse. They really don't care. They boast, they beat their chests. So Liberia and Liberians really, no matter what you think the situation is, you may not like every commissioner. Everybody will not like everybody. Me, I'm sitting here, I have some people who can't stand me, whatever. But at the end of the day, we must look at the bigger picture.
Some people are commenting right now, mixing you up with the Liberian Marketing Association.
Exactly. So that's what people do. And the thing about it is that Liberians are so stuck in this negativity. If somebody doesn't like you for whatsoever, they don't look at the benefit of the good work you've done. They don't look to say, well, you know what, we may not like Massa Washington as an individual, we may not like John Stewart or Omosila or the rest of the commissioners as individuals, but we think they did a good job, and we think what they are saying makes sense. It will help the country. So you know what, let's support it. Liberians are like that. If they don't like one thing, or if they don't like you for something, they will just hijack the entire bigger picture. And that's why Liberians, we can move forward. So Liberians really need to be serious and hold their leaders accountable, hold them responsible, and keep being on their backs to implement this TRC report, because the implementation of the TRC report will have a far-reaching positive implication on changing Liberia for the better.
Okay, so discussion tonight, you sent me a few of the recommendations we wanted to look at. I just thought to throw in a memorial piece because that's where we ended our last conversation. So I wanted to bring us up to speed. For the reparations, you just talked about is amending, the broken pieces, softening the process and for uh, giving Liberian people some kind of benefits for all the wrongdoing they went through. But here, one of the recommendations says building a new Liberian political culture. Um, how do you discuss this? I mean, what is considered building a new Liberian political culture?
Okay,
What were
so,
you guys thinking when you thought about that?
okay, so when we put that in because we thought about how politically, um, how toxic our politics, is. The Liberian politics is really toxic. Um, a polit- if you belong to a political party that is not the ruling party, you are automatically in opposition. You are not only labor in opposition, you are labor an enemy of the ruling party, and then by extension, an enemy of the state. So that's what we're talking about. We need to be tolerant of each other. We need to understand that everybody will not be a part of just one political party. We need to understand that everybody will not support the ruling party. We need to understand that. So we need to focus more on how we can dialogue on the differences, on the things that we disagree about, and see how we can, at the end of the day, find common ground for the good things that will better our country. So for example, you have several political parties, and he, you know, I mean, for example, look at Facebook. Look how Liberians on Facebook are so toxic. They insult each other. If you don't belong to, for example, the CDC, if you don't belong to the ANC, if you don't belong to the Liberty Party or the CPP or whatsoever, it's just so crazy. It's so hateful. Our politics is full of hate. It's full of marginalization. People lie on innocent people and decent people and get them in trouble. If for example, if a politician does not support the government or is not in agreement with the government may target the entire family, so that by extension, if your brother is a member of a major member of a political party, or say head of a political party, okay, most likely you could never get a job in your own country, no matter whether you qualify or not, or because you are the brother of maybe the chairman of a political party that is considered an opposition, and by extension considered an enemy. So those are some of the things we thought about when we say building of
A
political
new political culture.
a new political culture where people will respect each other. And then also it's good for the government to recognize, when I say the government, not just this government, but any government that is in power, it's good for them to recognize, the pluralistic nature of our politics. It's good for democracy. It's healthy. It's good because sometimes you don't think about everything. Sometimes you don't have the solution to everything. So if you have other people holding your feet to the fire all the time, like questioning what you're doing, and then also advancing recommendation for how things can be done, those are some of the things that people need to look at. Don't always consider because someone did not agree with you or is not part of your government or criticizes your government, then that person is an enemy. And everything the person say, whether the person make decent recommendations that will even help you do your job better, you disregard it. You don't accept it. You don't act upon it because you think if you do, then you will be giving the opposition a cloud. So in so doing, so many times the government of the day missed the opportunity to really have some very good ideas for policies and strategies that will move the country forward, because they don't want they think if they take advice from the opposition or whatsoever, they think they make them look good. It's just crazy culture that we need to get rid of to be able to advance the betterment of our society.
But the irony of the situation here, the very people who now in power are the ones who sit on the other side of the spectrum and make loud noise. They're the same ones who criticize. So when they come to power, then they don't want for someone to criticize them. And this has been the revolving wheel in our politics. So I hope this recommendation can go a long way, especially cleaning up the toxic nature of our politics, like you said, and those the incumbents should begin to see that opposition play a major role and they are part of the greater society. And if everyone means well for the country, then everyone has, something to offer. And you should see it from that perspective. So let's go to the next recommendation. civil and political rights, political parties and civil society empowerment.
Okay, so what was behind that other recommendation is that we look at how people's political and civil rights are abused, but from across different governments when they were in power. We have to stop that because and because people don't feel a part of the government.
You
People
want to give an example?
Yeah, for example, if people's rights are abused, for example, if the government is in power and it completely, let's say, marginalizes one segment of the society, like for example, if you decide you're not going to be bothered with certain ethnic group, or you're only going to promote your ethnic group, and you're not tolerant of the other ethnic groups, you're not accommodating of the other ethnic group, then people don't feel ownership of the government. And if people don't feel ownership of the government, they don't feel responsible for the success of that government. And then in a toxic political environment like Liberia, then they start to work to undermine the government and they start to work to tear the government down. Because guess what? They don't feel a part of it. You have not made them feel a part of it. You have not included them in the body politics as Liberians. As they're like strangers in their own country. They don't, you exclude them from the benefits of their natural resources. You exclude them from, so the only thing they do there is to pay taxes. That is if they're even lucky and working somewhere.
So it almost similar to that of a government that muscling the press, because the press is a part of civil society if you come to think
Absolutely.
about it.
Absolutely. So this is why you see sometimes some governments they struggle in getting the policies and the agenda across. People don't support it is because the way they carry on. When you treat your own people like they're outsiders, when you have created a cycle, you draw a cycle and you draw them out, and you're having this big feast and this big party, but you lock all the doors and they got to be standing to the window peeping in to see, how you're dancing the jitty ball and see all the food on the table and you're drinking and getting drunk and the children don't have food to eat. When you create that kind of situation, then of course you will create a hostile citizenry. They're not going to support you because they feel it's not in their interest. And I think it's one of the reasons too why Liberians, if you notice, when the military coup happened, when the 1979 West Riot happened, when the military coup happened, and even they exacerbated it in the war, they destroyed everything that was government. Because that's how the Liberian people never really saw themselves as part of the government. They didn't see themselves as beneficiaries of the government. Okay? They saw the government as those people who were in power, because when those people who were in power, they had all the money, they had all the big cars, and they were abusing our rights. We were not part of it. So when the war happened, they just destroy everywhere. They destroy schools, infrastructure, even things that benefited their own community because they were not educated and supported and respected enough for them to feel that, what, even though this is the government, but this is our government. We are
I'll
all
give you another. I'll give you another example. Like the NPFL when they came, they went after the army, but they called it Dole Soldier
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because they saw the army as a personal army
Yeah.
to President Dole.
Exactly, exactly. And much as the NPFL was wrong, and we know the NPFL was a murderous rebel group, but then also they had a bit of, just maybe a tiny bit of legitimacy there in that thinking, because we saw when the war finally hit, when it went bad, we were in Liberia, we were in Monrovia, we saw 1990, Samuel Doe and his government was purging other tribes, out of mainstream, military or positions and stuff, because they didn't trust the other tribes anymore. So, most of the generals, were crowns. They were recruiting young, crown people and stuff like that. So when Mr. Taylor took over, they duped the crown, they duped the army, dual army or crown army or what's. But those are all bad stereotypes. It's not good for the country because all Liberians are valuable. They have something to offer. So when Liberia has an opportunity to actually right all the wrong. We have an opportunity. It's like our country is being rebirthed. So all those things that were negative, that caused people to get hurt, that caused the country to be divided, by now you would have thought we have learned our lesson not to stigmatize people because, you know, maybe you had, I think before the war, they had more Lomas, you know, people in the army because I think, you know, again, this is not scientific, but just based upon what people were saying. They had a lot of Loma people in the army. I think the Loma tribe was noted for being a military tribe. They loved the army. They loved to serve the humble people and stuff. So you had a lot of Loma people in the army. But then when the war finally came and stuff, you know, the army flipped over. People started saying, well, Samuel do army because, you know, they saw a lot of people from the Crown tribe being recruited into the army and back and forth. So we should have a place now in our national discourse where we should actually gravitate away from that way of thinking. Because we have decent people in every tribe, we have intelligent people in every tribe, we have patriotic and loyal people in every tribe. And we need to tap on the values that our people generally bring to the country instead of, you know, stereotyping people and stigmatizing people. But sometimes, most of the time, it's the government that set the stage for those kinds of things.
Thank you very much. And we're afraid that this government doesn't politicize it as a CDC thing, like you know, referencing now to the kinds of stereotype that this government will consider everyone as a part of the process. But we want to take a quick intermission just to remind you that this is Ashford Garley live here on Bridge Radio Africa. We have in studios former Commissioner Madam Massa Washington of the uh, Truth and Reconciliation Commission. She's here with us in studios discussing the recommendations. We've covered a few of the recommendations. We have a lot more to go. This broadcast can be heard on Top FM 105.3 in Zwedru, Grangita County. It can also be heard on Joy FM 101.5 and Live FM 104.1. We want to go to our chat room and just recognize some of the folks in studios with us tonight. Sam Segon, Emmanuel Jackson, Dr. Batom Kula, Marion Sandy, and Marion is the wife of Mr. Moses Sandy, Fatumata Holloway, Weado. We also have Agnes Samukai Moba, Artie Liberia, Kula S. Johnson, Darling Wildwood. The controversial Darling Wildwood, welcome to the show. You also want to remember Ford Morrison, Amy Bachu, Victoria Moyala, Maki Manu, Vaba Salifu, and Hawa Soni, and also to Jack Murch and Serena Teasley, Lavokcha, Woloto Win. Welcome, Kruba Nati Na. Thanks ever so much for coming on tonight with us, Gabe Tucker. We also want you to share the link, invite a friend. Remember that we can be heard and seen both on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So we're just having a great time here tonight, discussing these very key and pertinent issues to help change our country. We'll go back to Massa. We'll be opening the lines shortly, but we want to go back to one recommendation. As you can see, I'm using the Temple of Justice in my background tonight. And this recommendation is the recommendation on the administration of justice. The administration of justice. And look around Liberia today. We failed to administer justice for the Liberian people. I keep saying 300,000 plus people died. You know, imagine had the World Crime Court in Sierra Leone had not go after President Tiller, former President Tiller. Probably he would still be in power. Who knows? He could have tried to do everything with the Constitution. So we have these people hanging around, bragging and knocking the chest and saying nothing can be done. So when will we have the administration of justice done, Masa? And why did you guys thought about this as an important element in the recommendations?
Okay, so I will start responding to this last question by answering the last question first and come back up. Why did we include these recommendations? We included a recommendation of justice because it's extremely important. We cannot have a country that one does not have the rule of law, where its citizens or people within its borders do not recognize the rule of law, or where in some cases you have very good legal instruments towards justice, but then they are not used, they're discarded, they're ignored for whatever reason. And when it happens like this, you have the situation that we have today, where Liberians are still calling for justice for what has happened in our country in terms of the Civil War and other violent conflict eras in Liberia. It's very important for people to feel safe in the environment, in the space, in their own country. A country that does not provide safety for its people is a miserable country. It's never going to know any peace. It's never going to advance economically or any other way, because it's not going to be a stable society. It's going to be a violent society. As you can see, unfortunately, Liberia has established a record for being a violent society. Every time something happens, Liberians want to respond with violence. And violence can be, in so many different forms.
Yes.
Sometimes not physical violence, sometimes it's verbal violence. Sometimes it's physical violence, but not necessarily physical against human beings. Sometimes it's against people's property. Liberians have, come from this devastating 14, 16 year civil war. They're trying to rebuild their lives. And then when the government does not address any issues, like, for example, salaries, when civil servants do not get paid on time, when people do not have even a decent semblance of health or benefits and health insurance, when children cannot go to school, and when children are getting missing, look at the situation with kids all over Liberia. Children are getting missing. They're finding their bodies later on. Sometimes they find them, they have body parts extracted, and then all these deaths are not being properly addressed. And because they're not being properly addressed, so it gives rise to conspiracy theories, because people don't really know what has happened. No one has really, spoken the truth about what's been happening. So it gives birth to people thinking the worst, and unfortunately, sometimes the government gets the point of it, and sometimes people even call government officials' name. Maybe they're innocent, maybe they're not. But the thing is, if you have a system of justice that is transparent, that is fair, that is viable, and that is serious, it sets the tone for how issues or ills of the society would be addressed. It's like people tell you they have, for example, they have case, and you call the police, and when the police get there, they say to you, we need transportation to to go back to base, to go back to headquarters. For example, someone does something wrong, and the person goes to court, and the person is tried and convicted and sentenced, and the person is in jail, but you are responsible to feed that person. You who the victim, you who was the one who was victimized, whether the person stole from you or whatsoever, you are responsible to feed that person. They tell you, oh, this person is in jail on your behalf, you're getting justice, but you need to feed the person because we don't have money to feed this individual. And sometimes they extract, money from you. People violate your rights, and you call the law, and you have to, they extract money from you. So this is the kind of situation we're talking about, and we said the Minister of Justice. Now, the Minister of Justice, while this portion of the recommendation, while it is true that it plays into the bigger picture of criminal prosecution, like the war crimes code, the sanction list, and all of that, but it's a little bit different from the sanction. This here it basically gives rise to whether there are infrastructures that are prepared and ready to even host, for example, criminal prosecution that is local criminal prosecution. So if you don't have proper and strong institutions, justice oriented, if you don't have laws that people respect, if your laws are unfair, if they are applied differently to different people, to different sectors of the society, then it collapses everything that you're trying to do. Then you might as well don't have any justice system. That's what we're talking about. And then sometimes too, you have the court system. You have you have female legal practitioners who are also disadvantaged. Like you have more judges, more male judges than you have female judges. You have there's not equal distribution of how the jurisprudence is being administered. So these are the things we're talking about. And they seem like sometimes of little minor things here and there, but those are the little things that gave rise to those bigger things that are really hurting us now as a people. So it's very important for Liberians to take the issue of justice. I will tell you just very briefly. When I was in Liberia one time, I had a situation where at the finance ministry, again, I'm not going to call name, and I had a piece of document that I was trying to get out of the finance ministry. And I sent one of my, one of my boys. When I say one of my boys, one of my, I got all these young people that I mentor. So I sent this young man, and with the proper, to pay for the flag routine and everything, and I sent, and he paid for it, but then the guy was refusing to release the document with the stamp. He was refusing to stamp it because he wanted us to bribe him, to give him more money. So the young man came back to me and said, Commissioner, we will get the document out today, but you know what? The guy pulled me on the side. He said, I told him, I said, I'm not going to bribe anybody. I'm not going to encourage, the situation of bribery. I said, because we are the ones who are making all this noise. We want to change the system. And then just when I'm tested, I said, I'm not going to bribe anybody. I said, go back there, tell him, I say he needs to release the document, except he tells you that there are other, there are other requirements that we haven't met. Let him write it down on a piece of paper and tell us what it is and how much it will cost so we can come up with it, because I want to respect the law. Other than that, if we have met all the requirements for this document to get out of finance ministry, tell him I say he's looking for trouble from me, because if he doesn't release my document, I'm calling a press conference on him. So the guy went back and told him, and he was arrogant. I walked the finance ministry and I went in his session. I told him, I said, my man, if you don't release my document, I'm going to call press conference on you. I'm not going to bribe you whatsoever. And then when he, at the end of the day, he said, oh, sis, we're all the same people. I will not hold your document, but it's not easy. I said, but you guys are the ones who are messing up the system. I'm not going to call his name today. He's a friend of mine. But, I told him, I said, damn, man, people like you shouldn't be doing this kind of foolishness. Mm-hmm. You guys are the ones who are actually entrenching all this nonsense that is holding the country backward. And then you would be the same people who would be on air because you have access to the radio and stuff. You're supposed to be one of those educated Liberians and stuff. You would be the same one who would be on air tomorrow and talking about people are corrupt and all that kind of stuff. And here you are. I told him, I said, I'm very disappointed that someone like you, they gave you the job to finance ministry and you want to get involved in bribery, petty bribery, and I actually quarreled with him and I just let it go. But I hope he learned his lesson from that. I didn't hold it against him. We still, we're friends now, but it was just disappointing. These are some of the things we talk about.
Thank you, Massa. Thank you so much. If you're just joining us, this is Ashford, Garley live on Bridge Radio Africa, Volcano Shelton here in studios with you. Could you just call if you want to chime in tonight? You can still do your chats, but you can call at 404-272-2808. Again, the number is 404-272-2808. The commissioner is here to speak with you. Before we go to the lines, we don't have a caller yet. I would say we go to recommendations, economic and social cultural rights. Economic, social, and cultural rights. How did that come about?
Okay, the recommendation came about because we kind of realized that for a very long time, our society stereotypes and stigmatized, segments of our society. Sometimes, we would joke about it. Oh, the Pele man stupid. Oh, the Goda man is mean. Oh, the crew man is hard. They left fighting, all that kind of stuff. But then there are other more dangerous stereotypes that completely alienate a whole segment of our society. Like, for example, again, I don't mean to be offensive to anyone. We're having a discussion here, so this is not personal, please. Like, for example, people stigmatize the Mandingo tribe of Liberia. People will say, oh, these Mandingo people are not Liberians. But we know that the Mandingo tribes are part of the indigenous original tribes of Liberia. We know that. Okay. Yes, they do have a culture that is more secluded and more, not so open. But that is not sufficient to stigmatize, a whole tribe, And so those are some of the, the Bassa people, they are rogue, they can steal. The Bassa people sold a land for smoke fish. Those are all the kinds of
Or the Mandingo men too, daddy.
yeah, it's wrong because when we do that, we think we laugh and joke about it, but it comes out in other forms. Like for example, now the war has happened. Okay, we know that the war started from Nema County because Charles Taylor used Nema County to launch the war. And I think it was a political strategy that they used because the people of Nema were already hurt. The 1985 election had happened, and the attempted, invasion, and the attempted coup with Kuwampa had happened. So the people of Nema, were at loggerheads, or the Dole government was not happy with the people of Nema and all of that. So people used Nema County to launch the war. They thought they would get support. But the war is over now. We know that Nema is one of the most important counties in Liberia. Before the war, Nema was one of the breadbasket for Liberia. And we have distinguished or citizens from Nema County. I have a lot of good friends from Nema that I love and respect. So every time someone says, reference Nema County as those rebels and stuff, I take my time. I take my time to educate them, to differentiate it. And I say, no, yes, we got a lot of fighters who came from Nema County because people used the county and Taylor stayed there for a long time. But it's not the whole Nema County. I know a lot of decent people from Nema County, smart people, educated people, people who are patriotic, they love Liberia, people who would never hurt another person. And the same goes for the Crown people. People tired Crown people because of Samuel Doe and because of his own excesses. So those are things that we as a society need to seriously work towards eradicating, so that we can bring our country together in peace, so we can move this country forward. If not for us, at least for our children and our grandchildren. Liberia is a small country. We need to value each other. Every single Liberian brings something to the table. Every single tribe brings something to the table.
All right, Massa, we have a call on the line. Just before going to the call, I want you, our listeners and viewers, to understand what Madam Washington is talking about tonight. As we discuss these segments of the recommendations, you see how she brought this last piece we just talked about, the economic, civil, and social rights, how she explains it. So you understand that when you say Pella people stupid, you're not supposed to be saying that, because it helps to brew what we call division. When you turn to the Mandingo man and say Mandingo man is not Liberian, they also brews division. When you say Nima people that are also rebel, it brews division. When you say Crown people were those soldiers, it brews division. So all of these kinds of way we talk about ourselves as a people, we need to stop that. And that is what that recommendation was about. And so you see some of these recommendations are so good. Had Ellen Johnson, pay attention, and now Mr. Weir, maybe we would have gone a little further rather than where we are. So I'm gonna go to the line right now. We have a caller from 3746. Caller, are you there? What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Ketel in Deborah, and I'm calling you from Texas.
All right, Kesali, you have a meeting. What's your contribution? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. And I want to say thanks to the commissioner for making clarity on some of these issues. But this is my question. Madam Commissioner, I want to say thank to you yourself for the job well done.
Thank
So
you.
my question is that when you were doing this job, putting this piece of document together, were you of the conviction that any government actually implemented this TRC document that you put together? And are you still convinced that any government will do? Or what do you think are the obstacles that are not allowing government like Madam Sirleaf's government and currently just
Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
Caller, are you there?
Them to implement. And then again,
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
is there any legal means by which we can mandate them to be able to implement this CRC report? Thank you very much.
All right, Massa,
Okay.
don't come yet. Hold your thought. Let me go to the next caller. Caller, you there? The caller from 3389. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, this is Emmanuel Jackson. I'm calling from Boston. Hello?
Yeah, is this Emmanuel?
Yes, Emmanuel.
Yeah, go ahead, Emmanuel. 1 minute.
Yes, I just want to know if Commissioner Washington can explain. Can we follow the same procedures that the Sierra Leonean use to institute their court of reconciliation? Can we follow those methods and do the same thing for Liberia? Because I mean, if Sierra Leone was able to do that, why is it Liberia can follow the same procedures? Thank you.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Thank you. Massa, another caller. Caller from a 2954. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Texas Forward.
What's your name?
My name is Fatimata.
Welcome to the program. What's your contribution in 1 minute?
Well, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you guys for this topic. I was just speaking with some nurses friends of mine, and we're talking about how we can help Liberia.
Massa, can you
And
lower
I
your
told her,
monitor? There's a lot of feedback. Sorry, caller. Hold on.
okay. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, we're discussing this very topic that you and Martha are talking about.
Okay.
And I was talking with some nursing friend of mine, and we said, the condition in Liberia needs some attention, and we need to do something. And what can we do? And somebody called me and told me to go on.
You mean here, Bridge Radio?
No, I don't have it, but I'm listening to it on Facebook.
Okay, somebody told you to go where?
So come on Facebook and listen to Massa.
Well, yeah, you're on the show. You're on the show. So
Yes, I am.
Yeah, what's your concern?
My concern is we have some organization there that doing some of the things that Massa is talking about, and that organization right now is called Making Our Children Safe Again, and it's called MOSA. And so I probably would like to talk more with Massa about the situation and to see how we can best rally with you guys and help some of the situation in Liberia, whether it be criminal justice or safety for the people, so that way we can, know how to be able to help. I don't know much about what's going on in Liberia, but I know from listening to my family, I kind of get some of the idea now. When it comes to the political side, I don't know much about that. So I'm going to rely on your radio show to enlighten me.
I have your number here, 2954 is the last 4 digit, right?
Yes.
I will give your number to Massa.
Yes.
So she can contact you, since you want to use her, expertise to understand how she can be of support to your organization. All right?
Yes, and how we can be of support. How we can be of support to her.
Okay, to Massa,
the commissioner.
In terms of what is recommended. Okay, thank you so much, Fatimata. Thank you for calling. So Massa, let me not overstimulate you with all of these. But if you were recording, the other guy was asking whether you're convinced in your spirit that any government will ever implement these recommendations. And then the other caller said, why can we not model after Sierra Leone? Because Sierra Leone didn't struggle to put a recommendation, in full swing. And also this last caller who trying to see how she can kind of liaise with you to see what type of help they can provide their organization.
Okay, so thank you very much, Fatimata. I will come to her last. But I will address Mr. Kessley first. I think the first caller name was Kessley. So his question was, did the TRC commissioners really think that the recommendations will be implemented, that Ellen will implement the recommendations? I think that was his question.
Or any government.
Or any government for that matter.
Yeah.
So at the time we worked, I mean, even though we had our doubts, because at that time, I mean, Ellen was the president, and people kept calling her name and alleging that she helped support the war, helped sponsor the war. And then we saw that also there were some key, alleged perpetrators of the war who now, in key or leadership position in the country. But notwithstanding, what we did was we didn't want to make any assumption. You understand? We didn't want to make any assumption. So what we did was we just decided to implement the TRC mandate. And the TRC mandate, which was the TRC Act, it told us specifically what we needed to do. It gave us a blueprint. It didn't give detail as to how we could go about doing our work, but at least it gave us a blueprint of what we should be looking for and what we should try to do. And so we did. It's like, the Liberian Constitution basically is a blueprint for how our democracy, how our country would be run. So we focus on implementing the TRC mandate, which was actually what we should have been doing. And then also in implementing the TRC mandate, when we had all those different programs, like we had statement taking, we had hearings, we had investigation, we had town hall meetings, we had the diaspora programs based upon what people were saying to us, what they wanted. And all these recommendations that we came up with, some of them we just fine-tuned them, but they were all, the ones that we chose were all recurring recommendations that we received from in the public during our work. So those recommendations that kept coming over and over, they were the popular ones who say, these recommendations represent the voice of the Liberian people. This is what we want. So we adopted those recommendations and we just sort of fine-tuned them. And at the time, some of us had our personal doubt, the way, they started politicizing things and the way the politics were going on. But notwithstanding, professionally, it was not our place to have our own, personal doubt or whatever it was to influence, I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Overall, you guys were on one accord.
We're on one accord because our job was, it says,
do your work and give the recommendation.
You do this. At the end of the day, based upon your process and based upon what the TRC Act say you should do, you'll go ahead and make your recommendations. So that's it. So whether we thought Ellen was going to implement it or not, whether we thought any other president was going to implement it or not, I don't think that was a decision for us to have made at that time to say, well, you know what, we're not going to recommend prosecution because it's not going to happen. No, the Liberian people called for the recommendation of prosecution. The TRC mandate itself recommended that we should recommend prosecution. So it was not something that we could sit down personally and decide, oh, we're not going to do it. So we implemented the TRC mandate and we listened to the Liberian people, what they wanted. And so this issue of the TRC or recommendations not being implemented is simply based on the political goodwill on the part of politicians and the president. If the president has a political goodwill, he can do this. All he has to do is to write the United Nations and say, you know what, we're ready to implement the TRC report. Please come and help us do it.
Thank you. So on the issue of Sierra Leone.
On the issue of Sierra Leone, in the first place, let's just say, even though Sierra Leone and Liberia had a lot of things in common in terms of, the war, our geographic, our culture, languages and all of that, but there was some variation, there was some uniqueness from their war and our war. And there were some things from the Sierra Leone TRC that we pay attention to, that we studied. There were some things that we borrowed, but we were very careful because no two situation is 100% exactly the same. It's like you saying all Black men look alike, even twins. Twins may look alike, but if you look deeply, you will see the difference between them. So we wanted to be careful that we did not completely just copy and paste other people's process and brought it to us. That didn't work. Now, the reason the Sierra Leonean process worked for them. The reason the recommendations were implemented was simply the political goodwill of the president and the government. It's just simple. The Sierra Leone, when the process was going on, they had a war crimes code. I mean, they had the TRC process was going on. They had a war crimes code immediately after the TRC provided its recommendations. They went ahead and implemented the recommendations. The Sierra Leone TRC is still implementing, the recommendations because it has several recommendations. But with Liberia, Liberians actually shortchange, the politicians and other, they shortchange. Liberians always shortchange themselves. They play politics with everything. You know how we talk plenty, we know everything, but at the end of the day, we shoot ourselves in the leg. Liberian, they play politics with it. At the end of the day, they didn't implement the recommendations. Now they're stuck with warlords, perpetrators, economic criminals who are now running the country. These people have had the country for the past 10, 15 years. They have become entrenched. They have consolidated themselves up, not only politically, but economically. Now it's become an uphill battle to go and uproot them. But the only thing that can cut through all of that chase is bring the war crimes code. Let George Weah already know. People have already told him how he can get this done. Let George Weah be brave enough, be bold enough, be a president, be a crisis president, be strong and think fast on his feet. Let George Weah write the United Nations and say, you know what? We're ready for you to come and help us set up the establish the war crimes code. That's all the UN is waiting for. That letter from George Weah. So at this point in time, the bigger crown of establishing the war crimes code for Liberia actually rests upon George Weah more than anybody else, because you know what? He is the president. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. He is the president, and guess what? This decision is George Weah and his government led by him.
Thank you, Massa. Just before go to the caller from a 5370, I think the point you just struck here is very, very important. And I hope President Weah is listening tonight. If he doesn't think that his next 3 year in power is hinged on taking this action, and think that the Liberian people are going to vote for him because he's passing around all what the country say he's doing counter tour and we're promising empty promises and say he will build roads and this and that. If President Weah listen to me tonight, I respect you. I've always said that you were a man who came to power without any blame. You've done your part for that country. God bless you and put you in power for a reason. This recommendation talked about giving the dead a place to rest, freeing the spirit, and the process begins with you. Master has just said, all you need to do, inscribe a letter to the United Nations and say, listen, we are ready to take action. We're ready to bring this war and economic crime court, put it in action, and we're ready to persecute these people who are passing around here. Because those same people will bring you down tomorrow. I'm telling you, President Weah, those same people you're in bed with, rubbing shoulder, they will bring you down tomorrow. You need to take action. 300,000 plus people cannot die in vain. And we think that this country is going to go anywhere. So Massa has given you the one thing you can do, write the United Nations, and let's get this in action. Please do this. Let me go to this caller. I don't know if the caller, goodness. Well, caller, are you still there? 5370? Caller, are you still there? 5370. A caller from a 4124. Are you there? Hello, caller, are you there? Caller, are you there?
Hello?
Yeah, but caller, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Okay, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Eugene Hammond. I'm calling from Kansas City, Missouri.
All right. Welcome to the program. You have a minute.
Okay, man, I was just listening to your guest in the studio there and also listening to you. And when she was talking about the recommendation for the TLC, it was carried on by there. That was the recommendation for Chad will never carry on because those
Did she tell you that it was carried on?
she said, I heard her say that it should never carry on.
No,
Yeah, at the end, they tried to put it, had to,
no.
yeah, try to politicize it.
No, you heard her wrong. And that's what we're talking about.
Okay, and she was saying that it's not for the corporate country of Liberia, it's not for the president of Liberia. That's what she just said. You know, it's not true.
Okay, so
Our
what is true?
Our constitution gives our the United States to a establish court. It's not to establish any court in Liberia. The judicial birth is had a right. It's not just put on the president.
So were you a part of the process in preparing the report to understand what the mandate is? We're talking to the commissioner, and the commissioner is telling you that it lies with the president to contact the United Nations because they but that's what we're talking about. So you just got here, probably you didn't follow the conversation.
No, I was trying to do it. I was trying to do it. Because you said you're politicized it.
But that's what we're seeing. It's being politicized because they failed to take action. Okay, thank you, caller. The caller from a 4124, are you there? All right, Massa. You know, sometimes it's difficult to, get people to understand. You know, as much as you've explained things here tonight, he believes that you said that the recommendation, part of the recommendations were being implemented in part, but none of these recommendations have even got into, being put into action. But let's go to the next one, which is very, very dear to your heart, and I believe is dear to my heart and to many people tonight. The recommendation on women's rights, protection, and empowerment. Women's rights. But just before you come, let me just bring this caller in quick. Caller from a 5370. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Leo Johnson, and I'm calling from Canada.
Oh, my man. How you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing very, very
well. I know this show
wouldn't
have been complete without Leo Johnson. Welcome, Leo. What's your contribution?
Yeah, I just had a few questions for Councilor Washington. I would thank her for her service to Liberia, first of all.
Massa, are you listening? Can you hear Leo?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I want to thank her for her service to Liberia because people underestimate the complexity and difficulty of this kind of work. And I just want to thank her in this public manner for them undertaking this type of Herculean task and being able to accomplish it the way they did. But my contribution is form of a question and a confirmation or not from Massa. It says, I would like to find from her if it is true that the lease on the TRC building ran out under Madam Sirleaf and that the government refused to pay the rent. And as such, they were threatened with an eviction, which left the archives of the TRC exposed to insecurity and possible destruction. And according to what we heard, that one night, the commission had a bonfire to try and dispose of what they could dispose of and try and get the other more important stuff on a boat to the port to have it flown to Savannah, Georgia. And in that line, my question directly is this. As we speak right now, is it true that the actual archive of the TRC is not available to Liberia? It's in the United States, which reads, the agreement reads quickly, I will go through it, that Georgia Tech agrees that it would not distribute it to the general public or disclose it to a third party. And areas that were designated as confidential will be kept confidential. An annex contains a list of people who are allowed full access. It's a special list of people allowed full access, including Georgia Tech itself. Now, we know that according to the report, this agreement, the Europeans and the Americans have been accessing the archives selectively to prosecute Liberians. And the agreement that the Liberian government had with Georgia Tech was for 5 years, and the agreement has run out. And since the agreement ran out, nobody from Liberia or the Liberian government has ever made contact with Georgia Tech. So right now, the TRC archives very important documents, many of whom which have been redacted, are kept at Georgia Tech with no agreement from the Liberian government, because since the agreement expired, nobody has reached out to Georgia Tech, so they just have the archives there in their hands with not knowing what to actually do with it. Is this true? Can you confirm or disprove some of this, Massa, if at all you have any idea?
Okay, first I will start with, and then I will not go into all of the challenges because it's a topic for another time. But yes, during the time of our work, we did face some challenges, including financial support to the commission. From the beginning of the commission's work, the government, made some, contributions, and it should have continued making contributions according to the process. But by the time we got into a certain portion of our work, most especially by the time we got to the part of the hearings, the president office became disinterested because, the hearings, people were coming openly, calling people names openly, and people didn't like it. And they thought that the TRC should have had only closed-door hearings. But that's not how TRC processes work. All TRC processes have two forms of hearings: public hearings and in-camera hearings. In-camera hearings is closed-door hearings. And it is the victims, not only victims, but people who are taking part in the statement-taking process. We will ask them on the statement-taking form. You ask them, do you or would you like to take part in the TRC hearings? And if that person said, yes, I would like to take part, we ask them, do you want to come to the public hearings or you want to come to the private hearings? The reason we give them the option is that it is their right. These people, for a long time, their voices were silent during the war. They were victimized. They were terrified. They couldn't speak out. They had no rights. The TRC is more victim-oriented. So when we conducted the TRC process, we were trained based upon the way transitional justices go. TRC is that to be especially empathetic towards the needs and concerns of the victims. And so we had two hearings. If someone said, I would like to come publicly because I want the Liberian people to know what happened to me and my family, it was our responsibility to make sure we provided them that opportunity to come public to tell the story. There were a lot of other people who said they didn't want to come public, they came private. And so the point I'm trying to make is by the time we got to the part of our hearings and stuff, people didn't like it. They wanted us to shut down the public hearings. They only wanted it to be private. And the president was one of those. She didn't want the public hearings because, quote unquote, she said people were coming to the TRC, people were lying on other people were lying on them, lying on her friends, lying on government officials and all of that. And we said, well, we counter-checked these people. We had extensive investigation. Their statements were checked and whatsoever. And so because of the disagreement with how the hearings and some of the way the TRC work was being conducted, and then also because they were calling their name, the government refused to continue funding the TRC the way it should. So yes, we did have a problem at the point in time. We did have a problem with paying our rent. The TRC, we were owing our landlord. We couldn't pay the rent, and we couldn't pay staff. Even commissioners were not taking pay for some time. And so the landlord threatened us with eviction. And that story came out. I think it was me who gave the press conference because we had to let the Liberian people in the world know what was going on. So yes, we were faced with eviction at that time, but later on towards the end of the process, they paid the landlord, he got his money and we were not evicted. But during that time, those were perilous times for the TRC. One time our offices were actually put on fire where the data area where they were collecting all the people information, the statement and stuff. It was put on fire for whatever reason, but we were lucky enough to have been able to, and because we know that Liberia was not a safe place in terms of keeping the documentation. There was no proper place where we could store the documentation. We had thought about the National Archive Center, the museum rather. We thought about the archive, we thought about the museum. And at one point in time, we had discussed with the museum, the National Museum in Liberia, to see whether they could work with the TRC so that at the end of our work, we could just pass on all our documentation to them so that Liberians will have access to it. But it was not possible because the National Museum did not have the capacity to host all those documents, especially important documents. Guess what? One day we would have gotten up in the morning, that whole building was going to be on fire. Okay, people tried to get rid of evidence. So the only other option we had was that, okay, after doing all this work, the Liberian people trusted us, they worked with us, they cooperated with us. people came and gave their stories. Some of these people were telling their stories for the very first time, okay? And people came and told their stories. And so we said, well, if the government, because at that time the government was fighting the TRC period. The government was fighting the TRC. They were trying to destroy commissioners' credibility. Every day they were planting, negative stories in the newspaper about commissioners, about the commission work and all of that. So we had to be doing our work, trying to manage our process, also trying to manage, what was going in the media. Government was just really fighting us, and then the perpetrators were also fighting us at the same time. So we said, you know what, the best thing to do will be, let's talk to one of our international partners to see if they can help us get these documents out of Liberia into safety until such time when the country is ready, okay, to be the custodian of their own documentation. So luckily for us, we had a Georgia Tech University that was already a partner with the TRC. They were helping us with our website and they were helping us with our technology, aspect of our work. So we discussed it with them and they agreed. So we went into the MOU, and the Georgia Tech and the TRC, it was not the government of Liberia, it was the Georgia Tech and the TRC came to an agreement to have all of our documentation shipped to Georgia Tech, and so that it will keep it for us. We had no other option at the time. So the other option that was available to us was to leave those documentations there or turn it over to government and let everything be burned because people want to get rid of evidence. So we did the best we could at the time. So to cut a long story short, yes, the documentations, the entire TRC archives is with the Georgia Tech University. And when the government of Liberia is ready, whether this government or the next government, when they're actually ready to follow up with the TRC process, to do post TRC or projects and stuff, yes, we'll go back to Georgia Tech, we'll write out the terms of the agreement again, and we can get our archives, and then hopefully we will ask some of our international partners to come back and help us properly establish a TRC archive so that the public can have access to it. But in the meantime, the TRC work is all over the place. If you go on the internet, you go Google, you type in TRC Act, you type in TRC report, every single volume of the TRC report is on the internet, is everywhere. The TRC website is down now, is because at the time when we did the TRC work, end of the process, commissioners paid from their pocket for the website to continue for 10 years after. It was our hope, and we recommended that to the government, that after our process, that is after we were done and we phase out, that the government would take over, the website in terms of paying for it permanently so that it's there. But they never did it. They chased us out of there. And so the website now is down because commissioners don't feel that we should personalize the work. We don't feel that we should personally keep, paying for the website to be on. We think it's disingenuous. This is a country project. And we think if we do that, then the government is not going to assume responsibility. It's the government's responsibility. The TRC was, a government of Liberia project supported by the United Nations and other international partners. This was not a private project of commissioners or staff of the TRC. So it should not be handled that way.
Thank you, Massa. Just before I'll go to the line, and after seeing all of this, it brings me to think that Ellen played the international community, because she felt that, okay, when I pretend like I'm going to do a TRC work in my country, it means I'm up for justice, and so these people started pumping money. You understand me? That's what the old mom did. That's what she did. She played the international community very well, But let's go to the line and speak with 7361. Caller, are you there? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good.
This is Cummings, Gerald Cummings.
Yeah, who Cummings? Cummings, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Right,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we're running out of time, man. I'll give you a minute.
Oh, all right. I know it's a short time, but I listened to my big sister, Sis Massa. I was just sitting here laughing because I truly believe that the public relations arm of the TRC was not that active. Actually, they need $30,000 to revamp that website. $30,000 to revamp the website. And there was something she said that Madam Salim was playing the media, the commissioners themselves were not united. There was no united front. I mean, I speak as first-hand information. Somebody with first-hand information. They never had a united front. At one point of the time, Commissioner Prayer Brown Boo, former Representative Wisa Plamo, had to rush to the radio station on King Street with some incredible information. And we found out that the commissioners were at loggerhead. Stu were at loggerhead, Massa and other people were having serious problems. So Madam Sirleaf saw the opportunity, and some of the perpetrators saw the opportunity to play in the TRC. I mean, take for instance, B6 Massa, you are a journalist. I mean, those are information, those are documents that you should have kept on your own, so that today we can peruse those documents, so that today people's eyes can be open. I managed to get 300 copies of those tapes because it was given to me by revelation, by information. And I reached out to you to do an exclusive with you, to know the veil. Only Jerome availed himself. So the TRC commissioners, they were at loggerhead before the documents were even sent to the Georgia Tech.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Jared, for adding it. We have another caller on the line. Caller from a 7611 number. Are you there, caller?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Bukano? This is Mr. Dwalu. How's everything?
I'm good, man. Come in.
Yeah, thank you.
Opa.
Yeah, I was just listening to Massa. You know, all I could just say was just wow. I didn't realize the extent to which these commissioners went to protect the interest of the country. I just call to just commend her and the commissioner. You know, sometimes we don't fully understand the detail that was involved in this, in putting together this document for the TRC report. It's a national issue, like you rightfully said, and I believe the government has to do more to shoulder the responsibility to make sure future generations get to see this stuff. It's a big deal. I just called to commend her. It's a big deal what the TRC did. Thank you so much, Massa.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dwalu. Yeah, Massa. So, you know, it appears as though we will not be able to get to our last piece, but I think we should, because it's not that big. The one on women.
Yeah, but I would like to address that.
Okay. The caller, Gerald Cummings.
Yeah, Gerald Cummings. Yeah. So I would like to address his you know, whatever
His claim.
Yeah, his claim. Because this is not his first time. He says that all the time. Every time I'm on the program, or every time he comments on the TRC, he says that. And I'm not saying it. I'm not upset with him whatsoever. He has the right to say it. But you see, it's easy. What I know with Liberian people is that when they are not sitting somewhere, and when they are not doing the work, it's easy for them to know all the answers. They know the answers. They know what to do and everything. And they never appreciate. They never appreciate what other people do. They never appreciate under which condition you work. And so the thing with Gerard is that, yes, commissioners did not always agree, but don't forget we were 9 diverse commissioners. That's what the TRC should be. The TRC was not, Gerard, I hope you're listening. And so I hope after today, this matter will lay to rest, because it looked like of all the volume of work and all the fantastic groundbreaking work we did on the TRC, for you, what you take away is that commissioners were not agreeing all the time. But of course, the process was not meant to be a so-say one, so-say all process. This is why they chose 9 diverse commissioners from 9 diverse backgrounds. Every one of us came from represented different ethnic group. We came from different counties of the country. We were even of different ages. Okay, we ranged different in ages, and we had gender balance. You have 5 men and 4 commissioners and stuff. And of course, so when you have a diversified of people like that, we came from different professional background. In fact, someone referenced me as a lawyer, or my friend from I think from England or so. I'm not a lawyer. I just want to clarify. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a journalist by training. The TRC was not all lawyers. They had some lawyers. The TRC was a diverse group of people with diverse political background. We had a housewife who was on the TRC. We had a nurse who was on the TRC. We had 2 lawyers. We had an engineer. We had 2 journalists. We had a women's rights advocate. So that's how the TRC is. It's almost like you establishing, like jury selection type of thing. And so, of course, it means that we have to argue the issues. It's like you have the parliament, even in the great United States, even in the Great Britains, democracies, okay, Western democracies that we love, that we are so in awe of, we think they do everything well. Go and see how they argue in the parliament. Other truth commissions go and follow the process. They argue, they disagree. In fact, I think it was the several truth commissions had two different reports. At least the TRC, our commission, even though sometimes commissioners agree, but at the end of the day, we came up with one report. Other truth commissions came up with two different reports to say that, commissioners disagree. But did the disagreement was it, did it overshadow the work? No, we disagree, but we still did the work at the end of the day. And I think we did a fantastic job. And just for Cummings, what came first was, actually, it was because of Ellen. One of the reasons was that Ellen was trying to manipulate, they were trying to collapse the process. And so they were trying to divide commissioners, even staff. The people had spied on us and all that kind of stuff. By the time you produce a draft or some document, Prince Johnson would get up that same day while you're in your car going home from work. Prince Johnson would be on the radio and say, "Oh, they just came up with a draft list of perpetrator, my name on it." Guess what? In that short time, somebody finished sneaking out the document. So, wow. Yes, we're trying to manage the process amongst ourselves. We're running a secretarial. In fact, other TRC, the Sierra Leone TRCs and every other TRC in the world, they went straight to work. They had a secretarial already set up for them. They had the offices, they had everything. Commissioners only went to work. With us, we created everything from scratch. Liberian people need to appreciate the kind of work we did. When they named us as commissioners of the TRC, we had nothing, zero. We had no secretariat, no office, nothing. We created everything from scratch. Then we had to turn around and do the work and implement the mandate. But the bigger picture here is, look at the volume of work we did. We came up with 6 volume or report. Look at the kind of work we did. Then the TRC was able to introduce groundbreaking project like the Diaspora Project. This is the first TRC in the whole world that had a Diaspora Project that engaged its citizens in the diaspora. We came in the United States. We engaged, we took statement in England, Canada. We went into Nigeria. We established a big project in Ghana on the Bujumbura refugee camp. We went to Sierra Leone. We were just all over the place. This was the first time in the world. Liberians need to learn not to be so negative all the time. Liberians need to learn to appreciate ourselves when we work so hard. We work so hard. We work our butt off. Yes, we were not perfect. We didn't do everything 100% perfect. It was a human process, but we did the best we could under the situation. And if Ellen had not tried to destroy the commission, if she had not tried to manipulate, if she had given all the support we needed, the Liberian TRC and the Liberia today would have been better off. All that thing, you have perpetrators there, in hijack, they have hijacked political office, they blocking decent people from going and helping the country. All of that would not have happened. Ellen set the stage for this stalemate only because her name was on the sanction list and because Ellen Johnson's name was on the sanction list. So the entire Liberia had to suffer it. That selfishness, the entire Liberia, all these decent recommendations, even the Palava Hot recommendations, all the recommendations were not implemented only because Ellen's name was on the sanction list. That's the bigger picture. So I hope, or my brother or Jeroy Cummings, I hope, this will answer some of your questions. Liberians need to learn to appreciate people a little bit more because it was not easy on us over there.
And you're right, Massa. I think the disparity in background, the diversity in background, in qualification, in expertise and experience was very necessary. And so people will have a lot of dissenting views. And like you said, there were insiders who were there to destroy the process. Who knows if some of your colleagues were not the one, giving information on the table. Not for me to say, but from what was happening, as you said, this caller is very, very, very much trying to get in. Let me just get this last caller. You will be our last caller from a 7361 number. Hello, caller, are you there? Caller, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right. Your name?
Hello?
Yeah, you just got a minute quick.
Okay. Pieces, Maz, I just want to follow up. Okay. I'm not against what you people do. You people did a You were under commissioner. I was then radio and television manager. That's why I'm informed and familiar with what transpired. Okay? As a matter of fact, there was series of issues. One of those things that I want to ask you, what happened to the document that Mr. Wowoyu, the late Thomas Wowoyu, sent to you people? What was the arrangement between you and Tom Wowoyu when he said that he wanted to appear at the TRC? What really happened? Because I have Tom's entire testimony, the entire document is with me, the entire audio testimony that he shared with me. In that document, he said that the commissioner agreed. But when they noticed that there was a situation between the late Thomas Wowoyu and that of Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf about the Egyptian report, there was a court proceeding prior to the election when Thomas Wowoyu, the late Thomas Wowoyu, challenged Madam Sirleaf to go to court. So what transpired between the TRC? Because in that report, he said he was not treated fair by the TRC, especially he made mention of Councillor Jerome Verde.
Thank you.
So again, let me answer this guy here. Again, Mr. Cummings, you come with a lot of judgmental tone, and then of course with a lot of allegations, which of course are not true. In the first place, Mr. Wowoyu lied to you, and what would you expect? What would you expect? The TRC, don't forget, Wowoyu was a person of interest in the TRC process. We put a public bulletin, we're publishing all the newspaper, all the persons of interest. At the time of the TRC process, and I'm only answering this question, I'm only answering you out of respect for this forum and for everybody and whatsoever. At the time when the TRC was operating, Thomas Wowoyu was not in Liberia, he was in the United States. And likewise, Mr. Charles was not in Liberia. And so the TRC contacted through our executive secretary, Mr. Nathaniel Kwabo. We asked him to contact, they were the ones who were making the contact. So he contacted Mr. Wowoyu and told Mr. Wowoyu that the TRC would like to have him come and testify at the TRC. Mr. Wowoyu agreed, Mr. Thomas Wowoyu agreed, and every other person who worked on the commission will tell you, and Jira, I just want to say this. You say you got some documents of the TRC, but you did not work on the process. So only if you work on the TRC, then you already know what really happened there. People will tell you, what they want you to know. The TRC contacted Mr. Wowoyu to testify. He responded and said, okay, he will come. The TRC went ahead and started making arrangements for his travels because he was here in the United States. He told the TRC that if we made arrangement for his travel, he would come and testify because the TRC, Wowoyu was a big guy in the MPFL. And the executive secretary, the commissioners authorized the executive secretaries to go ahead and make all necessary arrangements for Mr. Wowoyu arrival in the country to testify before the, including making security arrangement for his security, because in the TRC process, everybody who was coming to the TRC was entitled to full security. Even when Mr. Prince Johnson came to the TRC, we had to beef up the security 3 times because, he's a polarizing figure. And we were very concerned. We didn't want anything to happen to him over there under our watch because it would have just derailed the entire process. So we had to beef up certain individuals who came to the TRC. We had to beef up security for them. So the TRC went ahead, started making arrangement for Mr. Wowoyu for his security, started making arrangement for his accommodation. In fact, his own company was making demands. He said if he had to come, we had to do his ticket, which was understandable. But then he wanted us to put him up in a hotel. He wanted us to provide security, all of that. And we said, okay, we went ahead and started making the agreement. Just about when the agreement was almost done, when they contacted Mr. Wowoyu to get all his, demographic information to do his ticket, he said, oh, someone died from him. So Thomas Wowoyu said he had lost a relative or whatsoever. He couldn't come because he had to attend the funeral. Or however, he asked us to push up his hearing to a later date. When the executive secretary brought this to the attention of the commissioners, we went into a meeting and we agreed. We said, this guy is a very important guy in terms of what happened in this country. So if he can't come now, even though we've made all these arrangements, guess what? We must be flexible and work with him. The important thing is, let's get him to come. So we asked the executive secretary to please convey to Mr. Wowoyu to please give us the new date that he would be able to, to come and engage the commission. He gave another date. Tom Warrior gave a second date. They went ahead and started making arrangement for him. When they contacted him and told him that, they were making arrangement, final arrangement for him, he came up with another excuse. So, cut a long story short, Thomas Warrior was one of those who he thought he could play games. He came up with another, excuse. And at the end of the day, he never showed up. Ask any other commissioner, they would tell you. Thomas Warrior never showed up. That is how he never testified. Instead, he sent us, his statement. He sent out a letter, his statement, whatsoever it was. That's why he didn't come. Even Charles Taylor, we tried to get access to Charles Taylor. We wrote the head, we wrote the special code, and they told us to do this, do that. We did everything they asked us to do. At the end of the day, they wrote us back and said, they were sorry, but Mr. Taylor could not be available to us because of his unique situation. So, J. Roy, I hope this has cleared, I hope this is enough clarification for you. What you said just now was not the truth. You did not work on the TRC, so, you do not have authentic insider information on really what happened over there. People were giving you bits and pieces of the story, and Mr. Warrior, actually, he lied to you.
Thank you, Massa. That's why it's important to have you here tonight, because a lot of misconception about the whole process and what have gone on. But I think you're very right. The powers that be were not very loyal to the process. They didn't want to see justice come to those people who died, to the degradation brought on the country, to the struggling masses. They didn't want to see it. As I said, and I repeat myself, it's honest, and I'm talking the truth. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf played the international community. Bringing a TRC was one of the ways that she could invited the international community to say, oh, this woman means something, so let's put some money in there. But it was just one of her ways to kind of level the playing field for her to be able to, enjoy the 12 years she enjoyed in Liberia. Can you imagine? She has security through the United Nations for 12 years. The woman had everything.
She also has Secret Service security.
Yeah, everything. And yet she left the country in what it is today. And so in part, no one is blaming President Weah. We're just asking him as the new guy on the block, and he made promises. If he can just listen, get with the international community and say, listen, we want to do this. We want to invite you guys to come up. Let's set up this war and economic crime court so that we can bring to justice, so we can lay to rest this matter, so we can truly have reconciliation. We can truly move our country forward. But until that is done, I can tell you, Liberia is going nowhere. You can see it every day. The country continues to remain stagnant, if not regressing, day by day. And is it good for us as the oldest African republic? No, it's not. Is it shameful? Yes, it is. But unfortunately, we run out of time, so we cannot. Master, your monitor is killing with the feedback.
Oh, really? I don't know, but
I'm telling you.
Why I don't get any feedback? It's just you. I don't know. But
yeah, hopefully on Wednesday we don't go through that. Mm-hmm. But we will pause here for the night, because I know we came in for 1.5 hours. We're going to later over 10 minutes or almost 10 minutes. But I want to thank you so much. On Wednesday, we'll continue from where we left off. We're going to be talking about women protection, women empowerment, and women rights. And then we'll go down the queue. But again, thanks for all the information you provided. Many people will disagree and many people will agree. But at the end of the day,
what's more important?
You've done justice to the process. And it takes guts to come out here to discuss these issues. There's a lot of credibility on the line for you. And for you to come here and do this, I think the Liberian people should be appreciative that we're giving, audience to this. Because it's important. We can't continue to allow important things like this to lay on the back burner. It's about time that we act as a society. And it also behooves the citizens of Liberia. If they can demonstrate for everything else, then they should be demonstrating for this.
Absolutely.
They should be demonstrating for this. They should be crowding the streets of Liberia, asking for justice, asking for war and economic crime courts. Look at what happened in the country. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry getting rich at their expense. People building high rises. Just rich, 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 rich. 12 years of Ellie and her rich crew. Now we got another group of people getting rich who had nothing. Today they're riding first class. So we need to do something about this. But again, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. Please don't run from me on Wednesday.
No, I'll be here.
I need you back here so we can continue this discussion. It was very intriguing, and I think that a lot of people benefited from what we shared tonight. Thank you so much, Master. I will be with you on Wednesday, 8 o'clock. We'll continue from where we left off on the other recommendations. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you for coming. It was definitely a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Let's keep pushing this. Hopefully it will happen one day. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for being there with us tonight. It was a very important discussion. We'll come back here on Wednesday to continue. Again, like we said, this is a very, very important and dear to my heart discussion, because at the end of the day, for us to really restore peace, reconciliation, and healing to Liberia, we need to bring justice, to those who were victimized. We need to do something about it as a people. And it is evident by what is happening in Liberia. If we continue to play lip service and we continue to drag our feet, especially those in power, the first branch of government, you need to do something. The executive branch of government, you need to do something. The judiciary branch of government, you need to do something. We can't continue to just sit around and pretend that all is well because, oh yes, we have big cars. We're building farmhouses. Some of us got apartment complex. We're building universities. We're building high schools. So that's all to it. We need to pay attention to this process. It's very important. We want to thank all of you. We want to thank our Bridge Radio family, especially to our compatriots in Liberia. Top FM 105.3 in Zwedru, Grangita County. Joy FM 101.5 and Live FM 104.1 for carrying our broadcast. We'll be back here Wednesday, as I said, and we'll continue from where we left off. So all of you, please come back, share the link, share the video, tell a friend to be back here. We got a whole lot of important components of the recommendations. Very, very important components. So we want you to be back here with us on Wednesday. Again, this is Volcano Shelton. Thank you all for being there. Good night.